Chapter 26. It's been 10 days since the pharaoh left us and disappeared into the desert, and we've had no word from him. Asser is hiding us in his hut, so our only contact with the outside world is through him. He tells us word of the pharaoh's return is spreading like wildfire. Kakamut, the usurper, is frightened and has sent out soldiers to find the pharaoh. I'm afraid for my king. During the day I stay inside, but at night I go out for a walk. The high priest sometimes accompanies me, but doesn't say much. Like me, he's reflecting. I think about how the powers given me by Bastet have changed my life and the lives of those around me. Tonight, I walk alone and walk for a long time. I feel agitated, sensing something is going to happen, and it's almost dawn when I finally return to Asser's hut and fall asleep. The pharaoh appears to me in a dream. "Rappahamen," he says, "the time has come. Tomorrow I will fight Kakamut on the outskirts of Madu. I want you and Gato Hamen to meet me at Madu, outside the temple of Montu, at sunrise." When I wake up, I immediately rouse Asser and the high priest to tell them my dream. "The pharaoh has no army," I say when I finish. "How will he fight Kakamut?" Asser and the high priest look at each other and shake their heads, then look at me and shake their heads again. A gloomy silence follows. "You had better set out at night," Asser says, breaking it, "under the protection of darkness. I will ask the fishmonger to lend me his donkey," he adds, getting up to leave. And so at nightfall, we begin our journey to Madu on a donkey. The high priest wears the stinking clothes of a fishmonger, and I'm hidden in a basket. It's very hot in here, and the smell of fish, which I usually like, soon becomes nauseating. I look through a gap in the weaving, and as we pass from one end of Waset to the other, I catch glimpses of the great temples of Ipet Iset in the distance. When we go through the villages, the news we hear is the same. Kakamut's army is headed towards Madu. We stop occasionally to let the donkey rest and to stretch our legs. "Tomorrow at sunrise," the high priest says during one of our stops, "the desert of Egypt will absorb the blood of the good and the evil." His words make me shiver. When we arrive at Madu, we see Kakamut's army in the distance, lit by campfires. "Is the temple of Montu far?" I ask. "Just there," the high priest says reassuringly, pointing to the shadowy form of the temple on higher ground nearby. "But we had better make haste. Kakamut's spies might be lurking about." And so a tired donkey, a sore-assed high priest, and a stiffened-up cat make their way to the wall surrounding the temple precinct and find a spot of ground beneath it where they can sleep in safety. I'm jolted back into wakefulness by bellowing from inside the temple precinct. "What's that?" I ask the high priest, terrified. "Oh, that is Montu." "What? The bull?" "The bull is the manifestation of the god. Montu was once worshipped as the god of war, but nowadays the bull is mostly an oracle, like the bull of Menfi." "Is the bull going to bellow all night?" "Perhaps. He smells war in the air." "Gato Hamen," I say. "I have an idea. Since the bull is an oracle and Montu's manifestation, we can ask him to tell us the outcome of the pharaoh's war with Kakamut." "Not a good idea. The priests might be on Kakamut's side and take us prisoner, or, worse, kill us. Why do you think we are spending the night outside the temple precinct and not inside the temple, where we would be far more comfortable?" What I should have said was, "I'll ask the bull. I can sneak inside the precinct without anyone noticing me." "It is a risk that I cannot allow you to take, Rappahamen. The pharaoh needs you by his side tomorrow. Should anything happen to you, he would be so devastated Kakamut might be able to defeat him." He's right. "I will go instead," the high priest says, getting up. "How do you propose to get inside? You're not a cat." "When I was a young priest, I would sneak out through the back door of the precinct wall of my temple and leave the key under a nearby stone. The precinct wall always has a back door, and if I know anything about young priests, At least one here sneaks out as I did. And I have been here many times over the years, so I know the layout inside. Brilliant! Well, I am not the high priest for nothing. We set out to find the back door, and when we do, we also find the key under a nearby stone, just as the high priest predicted. As he disappears inside, he tells me to go back. I obey reluctantly, only to find the donkey braying, probably frightened by the bull. I lie down, and despite the braying, the bull's bellowing, and my worrying about the high priest, manage to get a few hours' sleep. It's dawn when I wake, and the high priest hasn't returned yet. I sniff around for a place to pee, and when I finish and walk back to the donkey, I hear the neigh of horses. The pharaoh, wearing the kipesh, the blue gold-studded crown of war, stands in an electrum chariot, holding the reins on two magnificent-looking stallions. You have come, he says, extending his hand. Where have you been, my king, all this time? I ask, walking over to him. I am here now, with you, he says, lifting me into the chariot and putting me down at his right side. I look over my shoulder, still hoping to see the high priest. I fear the worst, and I see his loss as a foreboding of the pharaoh's defeat in the upcoming battle. We ride fast into the desert, towards the rising sun. The pharaoh pulls lightly on the reins, and the horses stop immediately, as if by magic. He's still as a statue, the precious metal of his crown as blinding as the sun. After what seems like the longest minute of my life, he again pulls lightly on the reins. The chariot turns, and we face our destiny. Before us stands an army of thousands, infantry and chariots, each with a driver and an archer. At the head of the army, alone in his chariot, and directly in front of us is Kakamut. How can the pharaoh win against an entire army? Suddenly, some of the chariots and infantrymen move forward, struggling to push those staying in place out of their way. The result is chaos until, finally, half the army has separated itself from the other half and is advancing towards the pharaoh's chariot. Long live our true king! The men cry, our chariot becoming a small island surrounded by a raging flood. Long live our real father! Then they move behind us and turn to face forward, becoming, when the sand has settled, my pharaoh's army. Onward! He cries, raising his sword, the Kapesh. The heralds blow on the trumpets, and the pharaoh's cries echoed in the war cries from both sides as our army and Kakamut's rush towards each other. Arrows fly through the air, silently hitting their human targets. The pharaoh drives our chariot into the middle of the battle. We're close enough to enemy soldiers to hear their breathing. I see swords and axes severing limbs from bodies. I shudder and try to close my eyes, not from fear, but horror. But they're frozen open. Suddenly a cloud covers the sun, and in the darkness I see Kakamut's soldiers retreating by the hundreds. He remains on the battlefield in his chariot, waiting to fight the pharaoh. As we get closer to him, I see the years have made him uglier, his eyes showing no humanity at all, his lips frozen in a leer. He struggles with the reins, trying to keep his frightened horses still, but they lurch forward, causing him to lose his balance and fall out of his chariot. The pharaoh steps out of his chariot, walks toward him, and waits for him to pull himself up by leaning on his sword, sand sticking to his sweaty body. Once erect, he grasps his sword with both hands and raises it over his head. You and that accursed cat! He cries, rushing towards the pharaoh. The pharaoh raises his sword, his arm outstretched, the sword becoming an extension of his body. As Kakamut brings his sword down to strike him, the pharaoh swings his sword at his adversary's neck, and in a single swift blow cuts off his head. It rolls under the feet of the pharaoh's horses, and they stamp upon it mercilessly. The serpent is dead. The pharaoh stands still and silent. The rest of Kakamut's soldiers flee the battlefield. It's over. But I hear what you hear, my king, the lament of the wounded and the rattle of the dying. The pharaoh's hand, stained by the blood that gushed from Kakamut, is holding the even bloodier sword. My king, I also see what you see. A stretch of desert covered with the twisted bodies of fallen soldiers, their blood flowing into the sand. Egyptians reunited by their nation's great desert. Is it the blood of war drunk through the centuries which gives the desert its fearsome color? I leave the chariot and walk over to the pharaoh. Rappahaman, he says, looking down at me. Today we have won the battle, but the war against evil is never ending. He lets his sword fall, and I lick his bloody hand to purify it. Kakamut's blood tastes as bitter as snake venom. The pharaoh smiles at me. Like arrows, the rays of the sun pierce the cloud that had dared to cover it. Long live our pharaoh! His soldiers cheer as daylight returns. Long live our good father! After the dead have been gathered and the wounded attended to, we begin our journey back home to Waset. The pharaoh and I in his chariot, followed by his victorious army. We pass Madu, whose inhabitants, having watched the battle from their rooftops, line our route, rejoicing. They throw lotus flowers in front of the pharaoh's chariot and offer jugs of water and baskets of food to his soldiers as they pass by. I spot the high priest in the crowd, sitting on our little donkey. I jump down from the chariot, get down on all fours to move quickly through the crowd, and make my way to him. I'm so happy you're alive I could give you a big lick, I say, standing erect. But maybe that would be going too far. The donkey is braying, out of joy. Donkeys are single-minded beasts. Maybe he's still complaining about the bull. Did you see the battle? I ask. Of course, he answers. I saw it from the roof of Montu's temple. The priests were on the roof as well, but they paid me no heed, so engrossed were they in the spectacle. But what about the bull? Did you ask him who would win the battle? I'll tell you another time, Rappahaman, he says, looking embarrassed. Even more curious now, I ask him again. Well, oh, spit it out already. All right, he says. I found the bull, the biggest, fiercest-looking specimen I have ever seen. But I could not put my question to him. He was otherwise occupied. Do you know what I mean? No. Well, he had company. The bellows we heard were not because he sniffed war in the air. He was mating. I had to witness the whole thing. I thought that I could put my question to him when it was over, but he fell asleep and, my dear Rappahaman, one does not awaken a sleeping bull. In any event, by then it was almost sunrise, so I went up to the roof to watch the battle. The amorous brute might have been wrong anyway, I think to myself as I run on all fours back to the pharaoh's chariot. It doesn't matter now. What does matter, more than anything, is the pharaoh and the high priest are alive and well, and we're all back together. Word of the pharaoh's victory precedes us. By the time we reach Waset, the air has been purified with incense, and the streets have been laid with lotus flowers. People are waving olive branches or palm leaves to honor the passage of the pharaoh's chariot and his soldiers. Never in my life have I seen such joy. They have much to celebrate, the return of their king and freedom from Kakamut's reign of terror. In the royal precinct, outside the palace, stands a group of priests who sided with Kakamut. They hold their heads down, ashamed, and, well, they should be, of having supported the usurper. Will the pharaoh forgive them? Will the people of Egypt forgive them? The group is too small to include all of Waset's priests. The others realized neither the pharaoh nor Egypt could forgive them, and fled along with the members of Kakamut's court. Nearer the palace are the members of my pharaoh's court, honored ones, directors, and counselors, who've been in exile or in hiding since Kakamut usurped the throne. Keeping their distance from the disgraced priests, they wait to pay homage to the pharaoh. I recognize all of them, and notice some are missing. Either they haven't returned yet, or they're dead, killed by Kakamut. As the pharaoh steps out of the chariot, his courtiers bow before him one by one. I look around, expecting to see the high priest, but he's nowhere to be seen. Either he's gone to his study, or the donkey is even slower than I remember. Inside the palace, the various stewards in charge of the household, along with the pharaoh's old and humble servants, prostrate themselves and kiss the earth in front of him, barely holding back tears of joy. a testament to their undying loyalty to their true king. I know all the servants by name. Like the members of my pharaoh's court and the priests who remained loyal to him, they were exiled by Kakamut or went into hiding. "Your milk bath awaits you, my king," announces the bath steward, coming forward and bowing to the pharaoh. "Rapahaman, do you want to join me?" "Yes, my king." When we enter the ablution room, the bath steward prepares a second pitcher of tepid milk and a second pitcher of cool water, and places another wooden stool next to the one already there. When all is ready, we sit. 4 pretty servant girls appear, each wearing a simple linen dress and a wig made of long strands of plaited hair interwoven with colorful faience beads. 2 stand over the pharaoh, 2 over me, and the pleasure begins. Oh, how I missed you, my pretty servant girls, leaning forward to pour the tepid milk and rub it into my fur while I stretch my neck to lick the creamy drops from the long strands of your wigs. This time, bathing beside the pharaoh, I remain calm when the pretty servant girl begins to pour the cool water over me. Her wig is safe.